Welcome to the Shivering Isles. My name's Snow and I'll be your mad god today. What? Were you expecting someone else? Well, that makes sense. I did just recently get this job. And the guy who had it before me was a real hoot. Until he wasn't. He went from the god of madness to being completely sane, leaving me to take his throne. So why don't I go ahead and tell the story of him falling into sanity, me rising to godhood, and you subscribing to this channel, as I tell you the tale of how I became the god of madness as a monk. Last time you saw me, I had just defeated Mehrunes Dagon and become the champion of Cyrodiil before walking through the portal to the Fringe. You see, when you enter through the portal, you can't just go right on into the Shivering Isles proper. No. You gotta take out the gatekeeper so that you can go through the gates of madness. Sounds easy, right? Well, there's just one problem. The gatekeeper is kind of invincible, or at least practically invincible, because it has an insane amount of health regen. But lucky for me, this guy Jared here has a plan, and it's just crazy enough to work. I helped him go gather the bones of a former gatekeeper that he then fashioned into arrows that he shot at the current gatekeeper while I pummeled away with my fists. Turns out this actually worked because the one thing that can stop the gatekeeper's health regen is the bones of a gatekeeper. I entered through the gates of madness into the Shivering Isles proper and made my way to New Sheoth. Entering into the palace, and I came face to face with my patron, the one whose artifact had allowed me to get into paradise and stop Mehrunes Dagon. That's right, Sheogorath himself. Sheogorath decided to reward me for my dedication to the art of insanity by making me his champion. His first task for me was to go get Xedilian up and running as a new first line of defense for those wanting to enter into the Shivering Isles now that the gatekeeper was out of commission. I went and got it up and running and was actually even able to test it out myself. There was a party of 3 adventurers coming through, wanting to get into the Shivering Isles. The first one didn't make it, but the other 2 were driven insane and welcomed into the realm of madness. When I made it back to Sheogorath, he told me that the Grey March was coming. Apparently this is something that happens at the end of every era, where the god of order, Jigilag, comes into the realm of madness and wipes it clean. Sheogorath is then left to rebuild his broken kingdom and try to figure out a way to stop the Grey March next time around. That's where I come in. This time, Sheogorath's trying something new. He's going to use me, his champion, to stop the Grey March. He didn't tell me exactly how that was going to go, but instead sent me out to get to know his realm a little bit better. He sent me to go meet the Duke of Mania and the Duchess of Dementia. First, I'm off to meet the Duke of Mania. He was having the awfulest headaches as the result of something called Feldew, so he sent me in search of a certain cup that would cure his headaches. I had to beat up some bugs along the way, but I grabbed the cup and brought it back to him. Now it's on to meet the Duchess of Dementia. She had learned of a plot against her, and I was tasked with finding out who was behind it. I talked to some people around town and eventually rooted out the culprit, who was swiftly dealt with. I didn't even get to punch anything. You know, the irony is that I actually saved the Duchess of Dementia's life, only for her to turn around and betray us a little bit later, but I'm getting ahead of myself in the story. For now, it's back to Sheogorath. He sends me to a place called Silarn so that I can get a flame to relight the torch that shines over New Sheoth. And I do that. I sided with the Saints, by the way, if anyone was curious. Next up in Sheogorath's plan, I apparently had to become the Duchess of one of the 2 houses. I chose the House of Mania purely for the aesthetic, and after I added a couple of ingredients to Théoden's food, I suddenly found myself the Duchess of Mania. And at that point, Syl comes barging in. Apparently she had a thing going on with Théoden, and she wasn't too happy that he's no longer with us. Okay, so maybe not too happy was a bit of an understatement, considering she then went and said she's going to start working for Jigilag now. Strangely enough, Sheogorath actually seemed kind of excited about this turn of events. Apparently, in all of his attempts to stop the Grey March, this was something that had never happened before. But we didn't have too long to dwell on that. The forces of order had taken the Fringe. Sheogorath sent me to stop their advance. When I got to the Fringe, I helped the Saints hold the line against the forces of order, and then it was up to me to figure out where they were coming from and stop them. I punched my way through until I found the portal they were coming from, at which point I just shoved a bunch of their hearts into it, and that worked. Well, we stopped orders advance for now, but that was a little too close for comfort, so Sheogorath sends me off to make a new gatekeeper. I make my way through some caves, punching skeletons on my way while I get the parts for the new gatekeeper, and then meet up with Relmina at the Gates of Madness in order to summon it. The gatekeeper shows off its power right away by tearing through some Knights of Order, and I make my way back to Sheogorath. And it's at this point that Sheogorath decides to tell me what's really going on with the Grey March. As it turns out, Sheogorath is Jyggalag. Turns out a long time ago, the other Daedric princes cursed Jyggalag, the Prince of Order, into becoming Sheogorath, the Prince of Madness. But at the end of every era, Sheogorath turns back into Jyggalag and destroys his own realm. But each time, Sheogorath grows to love his realm, so this time he hatched this plan to save it. Sheogorath knows he cannot stop his transformation into Jyggalag, so he picked a champion to take over his job as the Mad God. And I am the lucky one chosen to ascend to godhood. And once I'm seated upon the Mad God's throne, if I can stop Jyggalag, then I can end the cycle of the Grey March. If I'm being honest, it's a lot to take in right now. Not only did I just find out that my patron, the god I've devoted my life to, is about to become his own antithesis and there's nothing I can do to stop it, but I also found out at the same time that apparently I'm going to become a god. But I don't get too much time to dwell on all this because the Mazkin need my help. The forces of order have attacked the source of their immortality. And not only that, but this fountain is the thing that connects them to the Shivering Isles. I have to stop the forces of order before they cap the wellspring and the Mazkin all turn to stone. I mean, I have to uncap the wellspring so that the Mazkin are no longer stone. All that really entails is punching through some of the forces of order and then ringing a few bells, so it's not too long before the Mazkin are back with us. And then I'm on my way back to Sheogorath. Now Sheogorath's plan at this point had been to train me and prepare me to take on the mantle of the Mad God, but before he even had a chance to tell me what to do next, he was gone. Sheogorath teleported away and became Jyggalag. We had failed. We had run out of time. Sheogorath was gone, and order would sweep through and destroy the realm as it always had. But then, in our darkest moment, when all hope seemed lost, Haskell came up with one final last-ditch effort. He said that all I needed to take the spot of Sheogorath upon the Mad God's throne was the Staff of Sheogorath. And while things would have been a lot easier had Sheogorath been able to just give me the staff, there actually was a person out there who knew how to make one. I was to make my way to the ruins of the Library of Order and seek out a man named Daius. Daius told me that in order to make the staff, I would need two components. I needed a branch from the tree in Reflection Grove and Citra's Eye. To get the branch, I had to quite literally fight the physical manifestation of my desire to use any of these super cool weapons I've been finding here in the Isles. And for Citra's Eye, I think I could have just snuck through the place by putting on one of their robes, but I just decided to go through and punch everyone down anyway. With the two items in hand, I returned to Daius so that he could fashion the staff for me. And now all that's left is to dip the staff in the fountain that is behind Sheogorath's throne. Or I guess, my throne now? Either way, the forces of order apparently saw this coming because they were able to poison the pools that fed the fountain. So I had to make my way down underneath the palace and purify the pools. With that finished, I dipped my staff into the fountain, becoming the new Mad God. And it was just in time too, as Jyggalag's forces had mustered right outside the palace, and the Grey March was starting in earnest. I made my way out to the courtyard and closed down the two portals that were bringing in Knights of Order, and then Jyggalag himself showed up. And I wish I could say this was a battle for the ages, hard fought and hard won, but he was kind of a pushover. By this point, my fists are certified weapons, and I just pummeled him until he gave up. With that, Jyggalag officially said the Grey March is over. I'm gonna go wander around the Plains of Oblivion. You stay here and be the new Mad God. And that's how I, as a monk, ascended to godhood. And then one night when I was just kind of wandering around the palace, I found a strange portal to some other place. It looked post-apocalyptic or something. I don't know, might check it out in the future. Well, thank y'all so much for watching this. I was really trying something a little bit different with this video, kind of doing some more narrative stuff to it. I'm wanting to kind of try to add some more narrative elements to my videos. It's just fun telling stories out of these challenge runs. And especially with this one, it was very much like, well, there's only so many ways I can say, I punched the enemies and it was easy over and over again. So it's kind of the perfect test run for like adding some more narrative elements to it. Let me know what y'all thought of this new style down in the comments. Also be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. This video was a little bit shorter. That's not anything to do with the new style. That's just because I didn't have as much to say. The questline was shorter than a full game. It was a DLC. Kind of works out though that it's shorter because it gives me time to work on my Stardew Valley finale video that I'm hoping to be able to get out still by the end of the month. I know I only have a couple more days in the month as of this video going live, but I'm still working away, working hard at it. Really trying to get it out for y'all by the end of the month. But yeah, I'd say that's all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and until next time, bye!